us with a video on a project, which is this is my favorite saying, that this project put Pakistan's on the map. This is the largest project of Pakistan, the only BCM project functioning. We're able to sell the credits 2 times, and we are really proud of this project. So over to the video, and then we continue with the panel
Here we
discussion.
are in the Indus Delta. It's one of the world's largest deltas, and it's an amazing place. The Indus River has really been facing a lot of challenges with water extraction and dam construction upstream, and that's had an impact all the way through the system, including a decline in sediment supply to coastal areas. But even with all of that going on, here down in the Delta, there are amazing activities in terms of mangrove restoration that's occurring. The forest agencies here have, over the last 30 years, planted and restored mangroves, which is an amazing achievement. Mangroves such as these, which are only very young mangroves here behind, but once they're planted, they take CO2 out of the atmosphere, goes into the plants, and then it goes into the soils down below, where it's stored and removed from the atmosphere. So it's very heartening, really, to come to a place where there's actually successful mangrove restoration taking place. And with every hectare and with every plant that's replanted here, we're doing something beneficial in terms of removing CO2 from the atmosphere.
We have implemented several schemes. In the World Bank scheme, this particular area, we have just seen that about 30 or 28 years old Rhizophora macronata plants are there. Which is indication that this species not only can survive, but can regenerate as well. And it has been seen by the audience, most of the area that falls in the project is being not only rehabilitated, but it's improved, and communities are being addressed for their livelihood, and all these issues are being taken on board.
So the project is working on developing the socio-economic aspects and the livelihood conditions of the local communities. It is conserving and enhancing the coastal biodiversity.
Here we are.
Thank you. Now, moving forward, I would like to invite all the panelists to be seated, and then we can start the discussion with two of the project leads from Pakistan. Miss Lee Glass she's a senior associate, Silverstrom, and Leena Osman, regional head, sustainable finance, Standard Charter. Mr. Oliver, head of biodiversity, Standard Charter. Mr. Rick, managing director, coordination. Mr. Ben Benedict Chia, Director General, National Climate Change Secretariat, PM Office, Singapore. Mr. Alamgir Khan, Country Head of Delta Blue Carbon. Mr. Riaz Wakan, Chief Conservator, Mangrove Forest, Sindh Forest Department. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. We will start our discussion with the Indus Delta project, and I will ask Mr. Alamgir Khan and Riaz Wakan Saab to give us an overview of the project and how you were able to start the project and implement it.
Thanks. Basically, this is
Basically, this is a restoration project. It's working.
इधर आ जाए
Huh?
इधर
Okay. Okay. Thanks for inviting me. That's what happening. Sorry, sorry. Uh, I'll just give you the overview of the Indus Delta. Indus Delta is basically one of the largest delta of the arid mangroves in the world, and it has an area of about 667,000 hectares. So we started its restoration from our own, you can say, smaller budgets way back in 1993, 94. But that activity was very minimal. So we then started scaling it up in the year 2008 and onwards a little bit. We saw that a lot of success is coming up, and then we did some basic studies on the mangroves as well. So it helped us in devising a more vigorous project with the help of Indus Delta Capital, the mother Sword, way back in 2015. And 2015, I think, was the era when there was not much about this restoration, and the rate plus was in infancy, but we stick to the project, and we did continue our restoration activities. And by the time in 2020, before the let's say the COVID-19 issues, it gives us our PD was validated, and then it's now on the one of the biggest project of the mangrove restoration and blue carbon, you can say, in the world. As Adhika said, that mangroves have the capability of storing more carbon than the other terrestrial ecosystem. It's basically it's the soil and the biomass that it creates helps carbon sequestration more than other terrestrial ecosystems. So that's why we started Sindh Forest Department and the government of Pakistan. We started work in the mangrove restoration, and then now we are thinking of going back into other ecosystems as well. So this is just, you can say, the overview of mangrove restoration. And with this, we hope that this restoration activity will continue. By the time 2030, we'll be able to launch all the cohorts that we have identified under the afforestation and reforestation program. So this is just overview from my side. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Delta Blue Carbon presentation. I am Alamgir Khan Kedapur, and I am the Chief Technical Officer with the project. This project has been started in 2015, and it has a duration of 60 years, extendable up to 100 years. So this has the implication that there are no non-permanence issues with our project because of its duration. Second important aspect of it, that it's a partnership-based project. It's a partnership between a government entity, between a private sector entity, and local communities. So this partnership ensures that there is ownership on the part of all those stakeholders who are relevant. The other important aspect of this that this project has been validated at triple board level. Triple board level for climate change adaptation benefits, for exceptional biodiversity benefits, and for exceptional community benefits. So it's not just any project, but it's a unique project because of its board level verified carbon credit units. That's another feather in the hat of this project. Another aspect is that it is big in terms of impact. I mean, the quantum of restoration that we are doing under this project is very big, and as a result, the carbon credits or the ECUs that are getting generated are substantial, and those are gold labeled. So that's another important aspect of this project in terms of impact. Then there is innovations. we are not having partnerships with the government and with the communities, but we are also having partnerships with different research institutes, universities, conservation organizations like IUCN, University of Karachi, University of Marine Sciences. So we are doing a lot of innovations and research with respect to wetlands and marine ecosystems. Uh, there is also this aspect of that the the project has set a kind of set for the blue carbon initiatives at the global level, and we are setting an example in terms of corresponding adjustments for other world to follow, and we are also in dialogue with Vera for developing a nature framework under the SD Vista standard of the Vera to stack the nature credits on top of the verified carbon credits. So this project has many superlatives to its credit in terms of its impact, in terms of its innovations, and in terms of providing leadership to the rest of the world to follow. With that, I will stop here, and if you have any questions during the discussion, I will be glad to respond to any of the questions that you may have. And I thank you all.
Thank you so much, the Center team, for giving us an overview. Starting with the panel discussion, I will start with Miss Lee. She's a senior associate. Miss Lee is a marine scientist, and she has 10 years of experience in ecosystem management and sustainable development. She has been part of one of the world's first blue carbon projects and also in establishing carbon standards. So the question for you, Ms. Lee, is that in your work with carbon standards, how do you ensure that impact and implementation of these standards in the context of Blue Carbon Initiative, keeping in mind the ecosystem in Pakistan, and how do you think that more projects can be developed in Pakistan?
Fantastic. So you can just say the question one more time. Sorry.
Yeah. In your work with carbon standards and developing blue carbon projects, so how do you ensure that the impacts and implementation of these standards are in the context of carbon market initiatives, and what are the potentials in Pakistan for further nature-based solution of blue carbon projects?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. So my name's Leah. I work with Sylvestrum, and a lot of what we do is working with the various carbon standards, but particularly VARA and the VCS, to design methodologies to enable carbon projects, and particularly blue carbon projects, to quantify and report on their carbon impact. So I think there's been a lot of discussions this week. The voluntary carbon market has recently become under a little bit of scrutiny in the global media, and there's a real, integrity is really the word that's being driven in these discussions at the moment. So what we're really trying to do is, with the methodologies and with the standards, is ensure that the climate impact that the projects are reporting on are real and tangible, but also really thinking about how to ensure that the Indus Delta project is so exciting. It's the first blue carbon project at a massive scale, and the climate impact is incredible, and the biodiversity and the community benefits are also amazing. We've really been thinking, drawing from our experience working with the excellent team that's been involved in the Indus Delta project, how can we kind of ensure that the standards enable projects of this scale, particularly thinking about tech. It's easier to work at a smaller scale, but in order to address the climate crisis, we really need to think about designing and implementing good projects at scale, and how can we do this? And I do really feel that kind of like tech is an important part of that, and it's good that the VARA, the standard that we work with, mostly they're really dedicating a lot of time to what they're calling DMRV, digital monitoring, reporting, and verification, to try and ensure that projects can deliver real impact at scale, but also by trying to keep the cost minimal so that these projects are actually investable. So the other thing that we kind of like took a lot from our experience working with the Indus Delta project is, again, linking to that kind of like the understanding, but the co-benefits where this panel is about beyond blue carbon. These ecosystems are incredibly important to the coastal communities that live within them. they're their main defense barrier in the face of climate change. How can we really kind of like look beyond just focusing on the carbon asset, but also trying to properly quantify the adaptation, the resilience, the biodiversity benefits that come out of that. So I think I'll end there and hand over to the next question.
No, thank you. Just to follow up on this, as you mentioned about co-benefit and adaptation benefits, which is the main priority for Pakistan when we talk about climate change. So, looking at this Indus Delta project as well and other projects under nature-based solution, what are the specific co-benefits you see for Pakistan, gender-related or other adaptation benefits?
A really good question. I think one of the co-benefits that is often not spoken about enough is that there's a biodiversity angle, but there's a livelihoods angle around the fisheries. The people that often live within and interact with the mangroves and that benefit from projects like the Indus Delta are often small-scale fishers that depend on the mangroves for coastal protection, but also for the fisheries benefits that these ecosystems provide. They underpin food security and they underpin livelihoods across the coastlines. Thinking about this, I guess this double win of there's the increased resilience. How do we but also increased economic impact, not just from the impact of the income from the carbon credits, but from the increased ecosystem services. And I think the other thing that's really important to know from that gender piece, I really welcome you adding that to the discussion. Where I live in Madagascar, the mangroves are particularly important for women fishers. They can walk out into the mangroves, they don't require a boat, they can manage the kind of their fishing schedule around their responsibilities within the home. So intact mangrove ecosystems are incredibly important for their livelihoods and their food security. So thinking about that kind of really that gender balance of you've obviously got the offshore fishers and the nearshore fishers, but the importance of mangrove ecosystems for women and ensuring that they're in the discussion when we're talking about managing these systems, and also from the perspective of kind of like livelihood security and involvement.
No, thank you so much. As I always say that when we talk about carbon market, we always confuse it. Not confuse it, but it's a mitigation instrument. But we generally forget about the co-benefits and adaptation benefits, which are cross-cutting and significant for Pakistan, the livelihood opportunities and the biodiversity related opportunities you have mentioned. Thank you so much. Moving to the next panelist, Mr. Oliver. He's head of Biodiversity Standard Charter. Mr. Oliver is working on integrating biodiversity consideration into firms' business activities and decision making. From that point of view, what are your thoughts of integration of national capital financing and biodiversity impact, and how do you see that debt to nature swap or green bonds can play a role in bringing capital in carbon markets as well or in projects related to mitigation?
It's an excellent question. Listen, I think that if we just take a step back and look at kind of the growth of the debt for nature swap market, I think the first debt for nature swaps were done in the 80s, right? And we've seen a significant evolution in how these swaps are being approached now. And I think that this project gives us a significant opportunity actually to work out how can a project like this at scale fit within that framework, right? And I think that historically these swaps have been really focused on generating a cash flow just for conservation, right? But what if we use that cash flow to invest in a nature positive economy, right? To actually generate additional economic value, but do it in a nature positive way and a gender positive way. I think for me, the big thing is that, and I think this has already come through very strongly in this panel, carbon is just the monetization opportunity, right? There are all these additional co-benefits. Those co-benefits, very importantly, have economic value for the government. And I think that's probably reflected in the fact that this project started before there were carbon credits, right? The government, the local government saw the value in restoring mangroves. So I think that we can scale this up. I think that approach can then be applied, to your point, to different nature-based solutions, right? It's not always coastal. The way we like to look at it is we're trying to finance sustainable landscapes or seascapes, right? So we're looking at this as a whole system. And so we want to see benefits across the whole system. That's again where we see, I mean, and I'm not sure that we necessarily applaud Pakistan enough for taking the leadership on this project, right? The fact that this is the largest blue carbon project in the world and has been driven out of the global south is phenomenal. It is a major, major success story that we should all be shouting from the rooftops, because Pakistan has shown other countries in the global south what is possible. But what's really interesting for me is what is possible is only possible through partnerships. And it's really interesting when I kind of look across the panel, we participate, as Standard Chartered, we're a shareholder in Climate Impact X, and we participated in the Delta Blue Carbon auction, right? We represent the end of the chain. We can only play that role with all these very important partners starting the journey for us. So I do think that there's a huge opportunity for us to have this conversation at a sovereign level. And like I say, how do we start leveraging what is an unfortunate sovereign debt crisis and turning it into something that is nature positive, gender positive, and climate positive? I'll stop there.
No, that's very rightly said, and you made my life easy by moving to the next panelist. As you mentioned, that we have panelists from different different stakeholders' point of view. Each stakeholder have a very significant role, and moving to the next one, in my opinion, the most significant role is a bilateral agreements where the whole discussion starts, where we talk about how the credits will be, who will be the buyers of the credits, and who will be sharing those credits in their NDCs and corresponding adjustments. So moving on to the next panelist, Mr. Benedict Chia, is the Director General, National Climate Change Secretariat of Prime Minister in Singapore. He has served in Ministry of Finance, Trade and Industry, Environment, and he was also part of a technical advisory of IQ, vice chair, and recently he has been elected by UNFCCC subsidiary body of 6.4. Mr. Benedict, being Singapore, like you are signing a lot of MOUs and agreement with a lot of developing countries in Africa, in global south, in different countries, and building the capacity, encouraging the private sector to develop projects in these countries. You have a carbon tax out of which 5% you have allowed to do the offsetting from these projects. Looking from that point of view, what do you think, your thoughts on Pakistan and the agreement we hopefully going to sign with you? What are the opportunities in Pakistan and specifically under nature-based solution?
Yeah, thanks so much for the invitation to be on this panel. So I would say we look forward to advancing discussions with Pakistan in order to get an agreement going. We have already started, our companies have already started talking and discussing possibilities. And for us, what we hope to create under Article 6 is another pathway and route for carbon credits to meet global demand. Because currently, right now, a lot of these units generated are just for voluntary purposes in the voluntary market. But there's also a pathway where demand is expected to come in for compliance purposes in the international market, where countries can use these units to meet their international obligations. And we think it's important to create this pathway to generate the demand and to channel the demand towards countries like Pakistan, where there's abundant potential of very high quality units, because this would then help us unlock the abatement potential and all the other cool benefits that the various panelists have talked about, adaptation, local community benefits, broader sustainable development benefits, which we completely agree with. I think on nature-based solution itself, our sense is that if you look at all the solutions on the table, it is probably one of the, in a sense, one of the lowest hanging fruit. Fairly cost-effective, fairly scalable. It doesn't happen because there are various barriers and challenges. And I think that's where carbon markets come in, to provide the finance, to provide the technical capacity and the specialization, to provide some of the technology solutions that has been referenced in order to help unlock the space itself. So we are quite excited. We hope to be able to advance the discussions. In parallel, we also would like to see concrete projects developed, and hopefully we can do more Delta Blue projects across Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's very interesting to see the approach Singapore is following to create this hub, not just for their own NDCs, but a hub for other countries to buy and sell in the region as well, overall. So moving to our last panelist, but most important, the backbone of all the projects where the whole research and project development starts. Mr. Rick, Managing Director, Coordination. And you have been advising governments, different companies, financial institutions, and bank over the past 2 decades on environmental market transactions, and more recently on carbon markets. You mentioned to us about the projects you are doing globally in supporting countries in developing policies, developing pipeline of projects on carbon markets to move forward with. So the question for you is, is to share your thoughts on the critical elements of the legal framework for investing in nature, especially in the context of evolving landscape of environmental markets. And also, what do you think for Pakistan? What are the other opportunities we can look into or tap into under nature-based solution and above that as well?
Great. Well, thank you very much. And this is such a great panel. And I just want to say that it's an honor for Pollination to be a partner on this project. You know, doing something this meaningful and seeing it realized, it really does. It's powerful. It's powerful emotionally. It's powerful for the climate, for the community. So everybody who's spent years and effort and leadership, real leadership. I agree, Oliver, that Pakistan and the work that's been done here really does deserve to be well known. I mean, it is becoming well known. Of course, it won best blue carbon project from environmental finance and stuff. But the lessons of how to do it right really should be spread around so that we can replicate, because we don't have time to reinvent. So we need to leverage these great solutions. So to your question, the financing that enables this kind of scale and sustainable effort over time, it is born from essentially a series of policies and contracts. Carbon markets, carbon credits are intellectual instruments that represent a scientific outcome, and they exist in contract. And so getting the legal frameworks right and calibrated for sustained, durable investment, it needs to be thoughtfully constructed. And governments and private sector, the partnership point that Oliver was making, when you bring them together in the design around something that is already demonstrated as success, you can create an enabling environment that's not theoretical. You can create an enabling environment that is very purposefully directed at achieving long-term objectives. And that's a carbon question, but it goes beyond carbon, as we're talking about. You're already, what can we do beyond carbon? You're already exploring that because you're such a leader. You've laid a very strong foundation upon which to then, extend and expand in that leadership. So I think it's really compelling. But this is new. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement is still being debated, and 6.4 is still being discussed, and including around some topics related to our panel today. So there is going to be the need to iterate on this and evolve it and stay mindful of the need to have continual improvement in the digital MRV, continual improvement in the baseline approaches, continual improvement in the legal architecture. And we can't pause and wait until somebody determines there's perfection. We need to advance and then embrace the journey of improvement over time. So I would just say that there's a lot of opportunity, but it starts with getting alignment from the communities, from the investors and the projects, and from the government. And when you can bring all of them together at the inception, that is the platform for success. It's the platform for, from the market's perspective, de-risking that investment. Because when the markets are looking at what are the types of risks that need to be managed, one of them is political risk. This is a policy market. So if you have the alignment, the fundamental alignment, the contracts actually kind of write themselves in a way because you have the alignment. So maybe I'll stop there. But I just want to again say this project and this effort with the government and the private sector and so forth it does need to be held out and invite the world to see how to do it right. Yeah.
Thank you, Vic. And I wish I can tell you not to stop because it was really good intervention. And adding to what you have said, de-risking investment, you need better policies, you need better communication from the government side. The clearer the government is, the better investor feel more comfortable investing in developing projects. From that point of view, Pakistan is in the process of developing a policy guideline on Article 6. That policy guideline will focus on what will be the process when you develop a project, how can you get the corresponding adjustments for those projects, which give investors some kind of confidence to that in future the investment will be secure. The second is we are focusing on which are the sectors which are open for corresponding adjustments. From the NDC's point of view, which goals are coming under conditional part of it, which are coming under unconditional part of it, and also touching upon the role of the MRB structures will be playing in the future, and also the registry. We are developing a registry with Climate Data Trust, and it's in the demo stage. But those kind of infrastructure within the government gives more confidence to the investors, to the two different countries under bilateral agreement under 6.2 to invest and work with that country. So moving on, like thank you so much for all the panelists for giving your remarks, and it was very interesting from listening from different point of view and different stakeholder point of view. And I can say that everyone talked about co-benefits, everyone talked about communities being very important stakeholders. Everyone talked about how this will be impacting the adaptation side of the work. So we will finish with one of the videos focusing on how this project, Industrial Tap project, impacted the communities and benefited them.
Okay, good. My back cannot handle that.
अम्मा जी पकड़ते थे बस यही हमारा बचपन था ऐसी बता रहे हम लेकिन वो यहाँ पर खेती बंदर में नहीं मिलती वो तो शहर में मिलती है यहाँ तो सब ये खुली हवा ये जिला की हवा आएगी उन्होंने हमारी बात की लोग पहले समझ लिया था कि बस शुरू की
in such vast quantities. There's only like 750,000 women and children in pregnancy. Many women give birth in boats, on lifeboats, under an open sky before they could find shelter. But remember, they carry the water all over the world, and in Pakistan, women are going to school. So I keep saying, our economy goes down because of women.
Berarti itu kaki bandara kaki kaki itu banjir itu. Ada sebelum saya pun ini waktu itu. Nah, kamu di depan lagi. Nah, ada yang masih karena itu. Untuk berikutnya Maria mendapat Maria menyimak Maria membayar ada sekitar 150. Mata ini itu mata kuasa itu mana? Biasa pandai saya, pandai menos saya. Dengan bani nanti jadi. Cuma gitu. Udah itu jadi.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we will be inviting Asif Feather Shah, Secretary, Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, for his closing remarks. He just left for an important meeting, so sorry for that. But let's have a group photo and the souvenirs.
Would you like me to sit?